The Ukrainian Defense Forces have successfully resisted Russia's attempt to establish military dominance in the Black Sea following the annexation of Crimea and the outbreak of full-scale war. In the fall of 2023, forces from the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense recaptured the so-called Boyko rigs from Russian forces, the Petro Godovanets and Ukraine gas production platforms installed on the shelf off the coast of the Crimean Peninsula shortly before its seizure by Russia. Fighting continues for the remaining drilling rigs. A soldier with the call sign Ocheret from the 2nd Special Operations Detachment Corps, named after Vladislav Peleshenko, part of the Timur Special Forces of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, talks about the specifics of naval combat. It's essentially a ship built at shipyards. It's then towed to the site where geological surveys have been conducted, where it will begin drilling. 4 so-called legs are lowered from it, then diving operations take place, and the legs are anchored to the seabed. The depth, as far as I can tell from the market numbers, could be 40 meters, maybe 50 meters. Then the platform is raised 10 to 15 meters above the water using powerful cranes and gearboxes to prevent it from being caught in a storm. Ocheret explains about the technology for constructing and moving gas production platforms to the required location in the Black Sea. Ocheret suggests revealing the details of the battles for the drilling platforms after the war. Now, he explains, any detail could help the enemy. No one just rushed into the fray knowing nothing, without conducting reconnaissance, additional reconnaissance, and without knowing what was really going on there. And once we received this information, we practiced using unmanned aerial vehicles, and then there were additional reconnaissance missions, and after that, it was time to actually approach the platform, fortify it, establish combat positions, and control the tower, says the GUR officer. Road speed is around 50 to 60 kilometers an hour. If there are maneuvers or a combat engagement, or if the boats are maneuvering, it can exceed 100 kilometers an hour. When it's still nighttime, and when there are many boats, it's quite a show, explains Ocheret. Each boat is commanded by a skipper in combat, but in the Ocheret detachment, this position is nominal. Ideally, each boat is a team of versatile fighters. When a combat operation is underway, everyone has 360-degree coverage because the skipper is primarily focused forward. The assistant has more starboard and left-right control, but someone also has to guard the stern, right and left flanks. Everyone is focused as one. Generally, the unit is expected to operate the boats. We have ongoing training, meaning all unit members must operate all equipment, handle all weapons, and so on. They train constantly. The skipper is directly responsible for the mission route, but, God forbid, if anything happens to them, any nearby fighter can take the helm and steer the boat, says Ocheret. In such naval engagements, Russian troops can be supported by aircraft. Ocheret is one of the fighters that survived an attack by a Russian fighter at sea. This was also one of our missions. We had to deliver equipment to one of the drilling rigs, replenish the guys' food supplies, water, and so on. It was a routine mission, nothing complicated. We arrived, set up, and started our work. The engineers began installing the equipment, unloading, loading, and rotating supports. And then the plane came in. We didn't even hear it, in the direction of Zminoy. They know how to do it, so we didn't even hear the engines. At first, it was like thunder, the roar of the engines. I saw it from maybe 800 to 900 meters away, recalls Ocheret. In that attack, the serviceman recalls, they were lucky. The pilot of a Russian Sukhoi aircraft attacked but missed its target. The crew and boats survived. The Russians patrolled the Black Sea 24/7. These typically consist of several drones that can fly for 8 to 12 hours, sometimes more than a day. They are backed up by MiG-31, Su-24M, Su-34R, and Su-35 fighter jets, depending on the mission. The MiGs mostly attack the coast. while the Su-34s are used at sea. And there's always something in the sky, explains the Ukrainian military officer. Ocheret is convinced that the success of every naval operation largely depends on preparation on land. NATO is discussing the possibility of shooting down Russian military aircraft that intrude into the airspace of alliance countries, a source familiar with the matter told The Telegraph. According to him, when deciding whether to shoot down a fighter jet, the proposed factors include whether it carries ground attack missiles, as well as the aircraft's flight path. NATO Supreme Allied Commander, Europe, Alexis Grinkevich, also proposed creating a unified air and missile defense system to eliminate national reservations, restrictions imposed by individual member countries on the use of their weapons. The issue of new rules of engagement will be discussed at a meeting of NATO defense ministers. Prior to this, according to Financial Times sources, alliance countries proposed easing restrictions on pilots patrolling the bloc's eastern border, allowing them to open fire on targets violating their airspace. This idea was put forward by Eastern European countries, supported by France and the United Kingdom. Earlier, NATO's Secretary-General Mark Rutte stated that the alliance is prepared to use force, but only against Russian aircraft that pose a direct threat. In late September, NATO representatives warned Moscow of their readiness to shoot down Russian aircraft intruding into their airspace. The heads of the British, German, and French embassies noted that Russia was deliberately violating their airspace with combat aircraft and drones. According to a Bloomberg source, a Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson responded that such incidents were a response to Ukrainian attacks on Crimea, which would not have been possible without NATO support. Moscow officially denies any involvement in such incidents. Russian Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov called to shoot down Russian aircraft irresponsible and warned of the dangerous consequences of such actions. Last month, NATO held 2 emergency Article 4 meetings after separate Russian provocations in both Estonia and Poland. When 3 Russian MiG fighter jets crossed into Estonian airspace, modern Italian F-35s were scrambled to intercept them. Moscow's warplanes were ordered to leave before being escorted to the international border in what insiders have described as a textbook response to the incident. Recall on September the 19th, Estonia announced that Russian MiG-31 fighter jets had entered its airspace and remained there for 12 minutes. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that the aircraft had flown from Karelia to an airfield in the Kaliningrad region. During the flight, they did not deviate from the agreed-upon route or violate Estonian airspace, the Russian military asserted.